Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our Lion Fight Zoom chats. This is always one of our more interesting editions to put together because it's time to talk to Nathan Corbett about how he sees the fights playing out for the upcoming event. We are going to be talking about Lion Fight 64, fast approaching on Friday, March the 12th from Hutchinson, Kansas, and live streaming worldwide on UFC Fight Pass. Nathan, Lion Fight 64 is topped by a super cruiserweight title fight. Our double champion, Steve Walker, he's got a world title, of course. This time he will be putting his North American title on the line against Brian Collette. Both these guys are very similarly physically structured. Sometimes we see, on Steve's last fight when he fought Chris Bradford, Chris was shorter, obviously a lot bigger in terms of like just carrying a lot of muscle mass. This one, Collette, is right around the same height as him, sort of in that slender kind of build for a tall guy. How do you kind of see Steve Walker and Brian Collette playing out?
Yeah, this one's a great and interesting fight. I was doing my research, doing my homework, and just without saying this person should do this or will do this to win, that person doing that to win. I just wanted more of like a watching Collette. I guess what you mentioned earlier about Walker. He's normally the taller of his opponents. He's very tall, very long. He's quite a big. He's a really big man for a 205. Like he must be coming down from 240 off season or something like that because he's a big guy. Like I've said before, if I'm going to get back in the ring, I'm not going to fight at 205 because these guys are like monsters. I'm like, oh my God. And he's such a big, tall guy. So that kind of, in I guess in some of his past fights can work, for him, especially being a southpaw as well, having that range. He changes it up a lot, changes stance, but typically he fights from southpaw. Well, on the other, here we're talking about Collette. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He's a super tall guy. That then all of a sudden changes the game when it comes to range. I feel Collette has more experience. He's got more experience. He's got 18 KOs to 23 fights, something like that, with 18 KOs to his name, which is a huge record. And I think he's had maybe a lot more fights and experienced fights recently that could maybe bring him into the place of having that experience against a lot of big guys. So that's where I feel like, I guess in a lot of ways, Collette has the experience. He has that range. Hasn't been fighting Thai boxing as much. So will that be the defining difference between Walker? We have Walker, who's been fighting Muay Thai. He's been actually messaging me the last 6 to 12 months and actually fell in love with the elbows and asking me some questions about it. So I know for a fact he's going to be coming with the elbows and throwing some heat. He's got a very difficult rhythm. He's not your normal just sort of style where Collette's got a normal style, normal rhythm, which is great. It works. I had a normal rhythm too, but Walker has this kind of like, it's almost complicated kind of rhythm feeling. It's hard to work him out. His timing. He'll go from one shots to exploding into 3 jumping kicks at the same time.
Yeah.
That's where his strengths lie. His strengths lies in that dynamic, explosive power, that I don't want to say awkward, but that a different kind of rhythm.
It's confusing, I think.
Don't you think?
Is that a word we're using? Because I think you saw it with Bradford and maybe some other guys. It's just like, how do I deal with this guy? His arms are over here, his legs are over there. It's he's all over the place, but Walker can put it together.
Very confusing, exactly, but Walker puts it together. So he makes that work for him. So it's an asset and a strength to him, but it's always bringing everyone else down. So that's how I kind of can't really see. This fight will be interesting if it goes the distance, but because we did see Bradford, take some good shots and go the distance with Walker. So I'm not too sure about if it'll go the distance or not, but I definitely can tell that it's a perfect matchup for the belt. It's a really good matchup. Collette brings a lot of heat, a lot of experience. Can he match with the elbows? Can he deal with the southpaw and the range? He has the height, so obviously that's not going to be an issue. Just another great fight online fight. Just another great fight to watch out for. So Walker, Collette, look, it's anyone's fight. I think the person really is just the one who's going to be able to maybe start the fight and get the shots off early, and then stay on that heat versus like, starting slow and coming back later. I feel like whoever finds the rhythm and finds the range early, and just maintains that the whole way through is going to come away with a win.
So let's take a look at the two heavyweight tournament fights. So the semifinals both will occur on March the 12th on UFC Fight Pass. The first time ever, the Lion Fight North American Heavyweight Title Tournament. 4 fighters, obviously, with 2 semifinals. 2 guys that have previously fought each other, and 2 guys who are training partners. So it's really kind of an eclectic little group. Let's take it one by one. The number 1 seed for the tournament is Cody East because he has a previous win over Joe Stripling. So Cody comes in as the number 1 seed, and he gets Warren Thompson, who is obviously a esteemed veteran. How do you kind of see that one going? It's a interesting matchup. Cody is going to be considerably larger than Warren, but I think there's some attributes that Warren has that maybe Cody is going to have to deal with.
Yes, absolutely. Like, as we know, East is a big man. Like, there's heavyweights and then there's heavyweights. Like you can make the weight into a weight division by having weight, and then you can have just a guy who's born a heavyweight. That's what Cody East is. He's a big man. He's a proper heavyweight. When we watched his fight, that time against a Stripling, it was a brutal fight. It was blood everywhere. It was a back and forth 5-rounder. Very good boxing skills. He's got great boxing. He has great kicks as well, but he's got heavy hands. I think that's in his MMA career. He was knocking people out with heavy hands. On the other hand, we have Thompson. I feel like in a lot of ways he's lighter, but he's faster. Like, he's still a heavyweight. He's 245. He's not cutting weight for this fight. He's basically walking out of his fight weight. He's fought in the 3 divisions. He's been at middleweight. He's been down light heavyweight. He's up at heavyweight. He brings that speed with him. He's very experienced, and I feel like he's got way more experience when it comes to fighting with elbows. From his highlight reels, I see him going in there quite hard. Last fight against with Cody, I didn't see him using the elbow so much. It was more of a kickboxing kind of style of fighting. So this fight, I feel like if East can land heavy punches in the first couple rounds, he might slow Thompson down and do the damage enough to get a win, because he definitely hits very, very hard. I'm not sure how strong Thompson's chin is. I'm sure it's pretty good. But as we sort of brush past round 2, go to that 3, 4, 5, I feel like a lot of fighter being Thompson, more speed, maybe more different combinations using the elbows can get the win. So, but with heavyweights, that's the exciting thing about heavyweights. You just never know. Like, all it takes is someone could be getting beaten up for 4 minutes and 4 rounds and 2 minutes 50 whatever seconds, and then bang, gets hit with a shot the last second of the fight, and that's all over. So,
and both guys possess that finishing power. Like you said, Cody's knocked out guys. Warren at this size, I think, is much more of a knockout threat than ever before.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, he's fought in the lighter division, so he brings the speed and he brings the agility and he brings like the skill work, but he's also a big natural hitter at that weight. I feel like, as he's matured with age, he's growing into that weight, and he probably was struggling when he was cutting to 205, where he's feeling powerful. He's walking around at that weight, doesn't have to cut weight, doesn't have to think about it. He's just, every training session is just like his fight. So he's going to walk into the fight feeling fresh. So can the fresh man, the go in there and overcome East? And like I said, a great matchup. Very exciting to have this for the first fight of the heavyweights.
1 second. Justin, can you let Steve Walker is saying he can't log in on the Zoom?
What?
And Nathan, let's look at the other heavyweight tournament semifinal on March 12th. Lion Fight 64 on UFC Fight Pass. This one is another very interesting fight. I think you've got Bazooka Joe Stripling, who will most likely be the largest fighter in the heavyweight division. Certainly for this tournament, he will be. And he's coming off, as you said, the loss to Cody East, but he rebounded with a win over Mirza Hopovac. and he will be fighting Warren Thompson's training partner, Terrence El Jefe Hodges. And we know Bazooka Joe. He's got the incredible ability to take a round of absolute punishment and then come back and finish a fight on his own, in his own way. But he's going to have to contend with a very quick, very athletic Terrence Hodges. Do you see this one being a case do you see this one similar to the other heavyweight fight, or is it totally different?
I feel like this fight is a little different. And after, studying Hodges and having a conversation with him and getting to know him and seeing his abilities to be so explosive and so powerful, that just talking about that part there, that's what concerns me a little bit about with Stripling, because as we know, Stripling will start a little slow. He is the heaviest of the bunch. We know he's tough. He can take punishment all day long, but Hodges is bringing some different heat. I don't want him to start too slow, get caught with the heat that you might not be feeling it, but you're going to sleep. So that's the only concern I have there in the early start of the fight with Stripling. But Stripling has the more experience. He's a more experienced fighter. Hodges obviously hasn't had a massive, range of striking fights. He started with mixed martial arts, then moved into striking, become a natural talent. If you watch any of his fights, you can see he's naturally gifted at it. It's what he's meant to be doing, and he loves it. But stripping on that, this is Muay Thai, it's not kickboxing. He's very experienced. He takes his training seriously. He's very technical. I know for a fact he's got a big engine, so he can go 5 rounds. He can take the punishment or give the punishment, whatever it takes. And if it takes him to round 3 or 4 or 5 to come home and do what he needs to do, that's going to be the case. So my biggest concern for this fight is if Stripling, starts too slow and lets Hodges get off on him too early. But in saying that, obviously Hodges has to, overcome the experience of Stripling. Sometimes Stripling will use his experience to kind of like suck people in.
Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't mind taking a shot to suck them into his rhythm, and then you'll find that rhythm, that perfect rhythm. But on the same token, he's got knockout power in his hands. He's got knockout power in his legs. You can see from a lot of his fights, even in the past where he's knocked out people with head kicks. So he has the ability to surprise a lot of his opponents with his ability to explode and hit so fast with power. So for such a big man, like I always say, it's the big fat man, he can't move, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 he's whipping up head kicks from nowhere. So he has the danger in all of his strikes to get this fight done and win this fight. I believe they were almost meant to fight, a month or a year to 18 months ago. They were matched to fight. Some other show somewhere. So it's kind of cool that this has all come round and they're going to be matched up against each other straight away. So to get this fight done, and it's going to be definitely an explosive fight from Hodges. And I'm hoping that Stripling can bring the heat earlier than later in the fight.
Do you see this after all is said and done in the semifinal rounds? Do you see this as a rematch coming between East and Stripling? Do you see maybe, I guess, what we might consider an upset along the way? Where do you kind of suspect this may wind up?
Look, it could easily be a rematch. If East brings his 100% to the ring, if he comes in, with that power, with that full tank of fitness and stamina and determination to really want this, he could be quite a danger and overcome Thompson. So there could easily be that rematch if we said Stripling, doesn't start slow and then starts the fight quick and then takes, Hodges into deep water and wins the fight with a knockout or maybe over distance. But I don't want to call this one because with heavyweights, that's the most exciting thing about a tournament. That's the most exciting thing about heavyweights is one could be down. All it takes is one overhand looping swing and right hand and the fight's over. So what would I like to see? I personally, I know Joe well. He's a friend of mine. I spoke to Hodges, seems like a great guy. I spoke to Thompson, seems like a great guy. I met East 2 years ago. So it's like, whoever's the best man standing and deserves a win, that's what I'm going to go with.
Okay. Well, Nathan, we appreciate you delving into these 3 fights. I know you're also excited for the other 3 fights on the card. We've got Crystal Van Wyck against Andy Wynn. We've got the sort of the King of Kansas fight, if you will, between Chance Thaxton and Cody Carrillo. And then we have a real interesting matchup at lightweight between Cody Moberly and Michael Triana. So I think this whole 6-pack of fights on March 12th on UFC Fight Pass is going to be very, very exciting. And I think everybody's going to really enjoy Lion Fight 64.
Yeah, that's such a stacked lineup. You know, with a lot of talent there on those other fights. You're going to see some technical Muay Thai in those fights. So that's going to be exciting, other than the heavyweight, you know, going to war, banging each other, which will still be technical as well. But it's going to be, it's definitely a stacked card. And I'm excited to be able to sit there ringside, best seat in the house, and of course, calling the action.
All right, everybody. Well, tune in. It is fast approaching. Lion Fight 64, March 12th on UFC Fight Pass, worldwide streaming. And we will be there, and we will bring you all of the action from that. And we'll have some more news coming soon. So stay tuned, and we'll see you again soon.